Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Invidiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multifaceted impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. In 2020, she decided to remove her breast implants after undergoing a series of health issues, to then finding out her breast implants had been recalled because they can lead to cancer. Vanessa Verdeaux is an actor, content creator, and social media consultant, and is famously known as a health and wellness enthusiast and ambassador. Vanessa sat down with me to share her story of explanting, the challenges she faced, the lessons she's learned, and how deciding to explant gave her freedom. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Freedom CEO podcast. Joining me today is Vanessa Verdeaux, and I'm so excited because we are going to be talking about her story that has really changed her life. And if you don't already know, this is part of the Naked series, which means we are talking about breast implants, explanting, and all of the good, the hard, the ugly, the toxic that lies around it. So Vanessa, thank you so much for joining today and being willing to share your story and, shedding some light on breast implant illness. It's something that is not talked about as often as it should be. Mm-hmm. And, women and men needing to understand what BII is, but there's still so many women that have implants. And I was one of them that I blocked out this word BII and did not pay any attention to it. So thank you for being here to share with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here to chat with you. And the more opportunities I get to tell, my experiences and share my story, I take them because I think it's so important for women and men to know, the whole story and what they're getting into, the whole package, the whole deal. Because like you said, I did not know anything about breast implant illness or the toxicity that comes from implants, the negative impacts that they can have on your life before I got them. So if I can reach one woman before she makes that choice, or man, I'm happy to share. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's start with your journey. When did you decide to get implants? And, take us back there. And if you don't mind sharing, maybe what type of implants you had. That's a common question that I think we all get now. And then, yeah, let's go through your journey. And then, maybe some of the things you were feeling that started making you question what was going on inside.
For sure. So I got breast implants after I'd had 2 children, and I had breastfed both of them for quite a long time. Previous to having kids, my breasts were something that I really liked, that I was very comfortable with, and that, they were like a very sexual part of my being, and I really valued them. So after having 2 kids and breastfeeding, I looked a little different. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I've always been someone who's really into fitness. And I had done a fitness competition and I was in great shape, but I was bothered by, if being honest, the way my breasts looked after breastfeeding and doing all the fitness stuff I was doing. And so a friend of mine had implants and had basically, shared her experience, which was not a negative one thus far. And so I thought, hey, I want to look better and feel better and I deserve this. And it's something for me. I spent years, and I still do as a mom, I'm constantly giving of myself to other people. And I wanted to do something for myself and I thought would make me feel good. So when my son was 3 years old, I decided that I was going to get implants. And I did a little bit of research, but I didn't really dive deep. And I definitely had, people in my circle who were like, are you sure you want to do this? This might not be the right choice. And I think they don't always work out. And I had blinders on, to be honest with you. I'm the kind of person who, when I want something, I'm like, no, I'm doing it. I want them. I don't feel good about myself. I'm going to get them and I'm going to do it properly. So I'll be fine. I'm going to get the best implants and I'm going to go to the best surgeon and I will be totally fine. So I met with a surgeon who, was respected in my area and was recommended. And I was presented with basically the Cadillac of implants. So they were presented to me as being really safe, very popular in Europe. And that they were different from other implants in that they were allergen textured gummy bear implants. They were the teardrop shaped. They wouldn't rupture. They no problems, safe in Europe for years. The one to get, basically, the natural looking, it was all, they checked every box. And I was like, sounds great. Definitely what I'm looking for. I didn't want to be, have huge breasts. I just wanted to be natural and I wanted to feel good. And I wasn't looking to, be anything more than what I was before kids, really, is what I wanted. I was like, I just want to feel the way I did before kids. Anyhow, so I had the surgery, which was fine. However, when I woke up after the surgery, and I didn't realize this afterwards, but so my left breast was much more swollen than my right one. Wow. And it was really strange. And I called them, they're like, it's fine. It's just swelling. But I have had problems with this left breast ever since. So I don't know what exactly happened under there, but anyhow, it did eventually go down. And for 2 years with these implants, I was fine. I didn't have any symptoms that I was aware of. Then after 2 years, I started having symptoms. However, I did not associate them with the implants immediately. I just thought it's aging. I have a virus. There was a million excuses I could find for why I was having these issues. I would get these random rashes and I was like, oh, my skin is getting really sensitive lately, really itchy. I was having hair loss. I actually started to get really bad anxiety, very bad anxiety, which I've always been an upbeat person, but it was to the degree of nothing's happening in my life to cause this. And I was like, is it hormonal? And my husband would say, when I was getting into year 3, year 4, he was like, every day at 3:00, it was like you were starting to come down with the flu. I started to get sore throats. Yeah, I started to get sore throats all the time. Shivers, I was always cold and getting shivery and having sweats at night. But the things that were happening to me were gradual. And so in the beginning, I couldn't tie it all together. And I'm like, why do I feel like such garbage? I exercise all the time. I eat well. I would deem myself to be a really healthy person.
Absolutely.
Super active. And I feel like garbage. And I was going to the doctor. I was getting blood work done. I'm like, what is going on with me? Am I getting cancer? I was worried. I just felt like crap. And I had 2 young kids. Then I got pregnant also while I had them in, had a 3rd child. I breastfed her as well. And to be honest with you, I have guilt over that because hopefully she wasn't exposed to things, but I don't know. She has asthma. Mm-hmm. So that anyhow, there's no links to that, but but my symptoms just were getting worse and worse. And I had 3 young kids. I felt really not well. And then one day I got a message, a DM from this woman who actually was my husband's ex-girlfriend from years ago, who were a lovely person. Anyway, she's like, you need to know that the surgeon who put in your implants apparently put in about 3,000 of those implants into women in our area. And her girlfriend, who's a nurse at the hospital, just received this notice saying they're all recalled. Wow. And I was like, what?
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. I had never even associated anything with breasts. And I got this DM and I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, what does that mean for me? First of all, I didn't get a call from the person who put them in me. What the hell? It was a random DM. So then I started doing my own research on these allergen textured implants and found out that they were associated with a rare, they said at the time, rare cancer that was killing women.
Wow.
I'm like, holy, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, go for it.
Holy fuck. Like my mother died of cancer at 39 years old. And my biggest fear in life is leaving my children. So I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, I got to get this out of me. I was freaking out. And it was to the point too, my symptoms were at night. I would put my hands on my breast and they were burning. It was like a splinter. They had become like a splinter in my body, and it felt like my body was trying to push them out. Right. So then I'm like, okay, maybe this is why I feel like shit all the time. And then she sent me this link because the girl who had sent me this information also had the implants. She sent me a link to this group on Facebook, Breast Implant Illness.
Yeah.
It was a Canadian group. It was this group that this woman named Nicole had. So I joined all these groups and I was like, oh my God, this is what is happening to me. And this is what I've been going through for the last 4 years and had no idea that this was like possible, associated. I'm like, it's the implants. Like, yes. 100%, hands down. I was the healthiest person before. I had no issues. I'm like, it's the implants. So I called a surgeon, and the woman who answered the phone, I went through it with her. I'm like, I need to confirm my serial number because implants have serial numbers and you have to confirm them to make sure you have the ones that they're recalling. Anyhow, it was confirmed. She's like, yes, you do have the recalled implants. She was like really calm. I'm not calm. I was not calm. I'm like, okay, so are we going to schedule something to remove them? She's like, well, I have the same implants. Honestly, I'm not that worried. Health Canada basically is only recommending you remove them if you have serious issues. And I'm like, hold on a second. They're recalled. They're associated with the cancer. And you're telling me that I should not remove them. I'm like, I have 3 young children. I have a healthy, vibrant life ahead of me. Like, they're coming out. I am not fucking around with this. Like, this is serious. And I was doing my research and it didn't seem that rare. Like, it seemed like quite a few women were getting really sick from these implants. And to be honest with you, a lot of implants, not just these, but mine just happened to be recalled.
Yeah. And I think the FDA and Health Canada have a really bad habit of using the word rare to not want to actually confront the bigger problem that is the reality.
Absolutely.
And they get away with calling these things rare, like the FDA just recently in these past few weeks is continuing more to unveil, I'm going to say, because I don't believe that it's a recent discovery, right? Like, you look at the history of implants, they've been utilized since the 60s. They were banned in the early 90s. Then in I think it was 2006. Is that right? Yeah, I think 2006, certain implants were brought back on the market and given permission to only certain companies like Johnson & Johnson, which follow the money. Why did the FDA all of a sudden say, yes, you can now use them again? And it gave a stamp of approval, right? So now they're with all of the pressure from women and people actually going to court, and testifying even in the United States before Congress around the lack of due care and the lack of research and the negligence of even doing studies on the impact of what happens when you put in a non-breaking down toxic product into a body that is at a high temperature. There's no studies on that. And why hasn't that been done, right? So you're seeing now just recently in the news, and anybody can Google it, around different connections and different cancers that are coming up. And so, I really don't believe that the rare is as rare as,
I don't believe that either.
They would like people to think. And it's criminal, my opinion, for somebody who works in a surgeon's office to have even given you that. I don't even want to call it advice, but for their comment to be that if you don't have major concerns or if you don't have major symptoms, then it's probably not that bad.
I was
Like,
blown away by her. And she also had these implants. So the
yes.
thing that, if you compare it, my husband works in the auto industry, okay? And you compare it to a vehicle. When a
Mhm.
vehicle gets recalled because it might set on fire, they all get recalled. They do not say, keep driving that car. It probably won't set on fire on the highway. But keep driving it. No, they recall every vehicle because there is a true risk of it. But yet it comes to a woman's body and Health Canada and OHIP's like, no, it's not worth it. Honestly, you probably won't get it sick. It's such a convenient term, the term rare,
Totally.
right? Like I was like, wow, a car is more respected than a female body.
Yeah. It's true though. Very,
Yeah.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew right away after that conversation that I wouldn't be going back to that office and that would not be the surgeon who I would be dealing with because the only thing they would offer me was to take out those implants and put new ones in. That was the offer I got. I
Right.
couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding?
Mhm.
Anyway, so I went down the information. I started doing all of my research and I was like, I need to find someone who specializes in explants and getting the capsule out and getting like scraping and getting everything removed because I was having serious pain. I was having back pain, like I was burning. And I knew that from the research that I did, just removing them wasn't enough anymore.
Totally.
Right. You
Mhm.
like you have to get the full explant and hopefully they can get that whole capsule out. Like that's the goal. And then after you get that, you need to see photos, you need to get blood work done. Like there is a serious process to this. It's very time consuming and you need to find the right surgeon, right? So I feel very fortunate in that I was able to find a good surgeon.
Yeah.
And I was on a wait list. I think the wait list is even longer now. And I had mine, I was able to get in right before COVID because I was,
Wow.
yeah, and I was feeling really bad. Like I was at the peak of like, I don't know how I would have felt having to go through COVID and lockdown with them in. Like it was getting so bad for me.
Yeah.
So I was like just so grateful that I was able to get them out before. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, but it's been a journey. And in one of the questions that you had said, like, or you had I said, I think in one of your Insta stories about like, you know, things you'd wish you'd known before is like, what a journey, like just getting them out. That's just the start of it.
It is. It's just the beginning. And, I think sometimes you can be in this position that you and I both were in, and it can be very overwhelming. And you mentioned a very crucial point that your surgeon matters in this because not all surgeons, one, have the skill set
Yeah.
to actually, so en bloc capsulectomy, right? That's what you're looking for. And there are very few surgeons that actually have the skill set to keep the capsule intact and remove the full capsule with the implant inside all intact. And it's important because many women have had ruptures and they've not realized it. And if you have things like, silicone gel, that's even more toxic versus saline, right? So if you can't remove that all intact, it can be even more detrimental to your health. And so I've put on my blog, and I'll put this in the show notes too, for women around what surgeon in your area is good to do the en bloc and the capsulectomy, because that is the most important. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, your surgeon is in the Greater Toronto area?
Yeah. So I actually went to Dr. Harris in Burlington, and he's head of, I think he's head of cosmetic surgery in Burlington, I think. Okay. And the reason I went to him is because he acknowledges breast implant illness and he specializes in the full explant removal. Yeah, and he was great. Like he was very business, he's like straight to business kind of guy, but like he was great. He did a good job. And the fact that he acknowledges it, I think he does more removals than he does in putting them in. So
unreal. And I think you're going to see that. I don't want to call it a trend, but as more people become aware of what's actually inside of them, you can't help. And, I'd be so curious to ask you, because for me, when I went down the deep dive of breast implant illness, and really not even just the illness, but like I started Googling, like, what are implants made of, right? And all of the ingredients are there, and you see the long chemical cocktail list, around carcinogens that are like made of implants that we would never, ever introduce into our body. And if you were to feed that to a child or another person, you would literally be federally charged and put into prison. But it's been accepted to put it in a form of an implant and put it in our body.
Without any warning to us.
Without any warning. Only now, right, in 2020, the FDA now has put a black box label on the implants where now surgeons have a duty to disclose. And that was one of the things for me, and I would love to hear even for yourself, was I knew the surgical risks of what could happen, but I was not told about the health risks. And there are some women, no different than smoking, right? We all know smoking is not good for many different reasons and can lead to all kinds of different health issues. Yeah. But the black box is there and you make an informed decision. And there will still be many women that are going to go, I might get autoimmune, I might have hair loss, I might get anxiety, I might get depression, I might have joint pain, I might have insomnia,
you might get
cancer, all of these things.
But I'm going to do it.
Exactly. You know, and at least you are informed, and we deserve that.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Shay, one of the things I struggle with right now is that, like, I remember how I felt when I really wanted something, but I did not know that information. I didn't have all that information. And cancer has always been like one of my biggest fears in life because of my mother. And had I known that was even a possibility, I wouldn't even have gone near it.
Totally.
And I, to this day, still meet women who are contemplating them. And I try to share my story in a way that's like not preachy and not annoying. And like, this is just my experience, but just know this because I didn't know this when I did it. And it's so hard for me to hear any women getting implants now because I'm like, I don't want you to go through what I went through. It was so, Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't like, it's so interesting because what we know now based on like doing the research. And back then, so for me, I was 25, which is, over 10 years ago. I'm 38 now. And I had mine for 11 years. I had 2 different sets. And even back then, I was still very, very health conscious and like chemical free living. I probably started getting into the whole toxic free living in my early 20s and, conscious about the quality of my water, what type of food I'm eating, what type of food that animal is eating, because that is important, all of these things. And I don't know why around implants, and even yourself, right? You're like a health and wellness enthusiast and ambassador, and everybody knows you as that. If we were to stop and critically think about what an implant is, what it's made of, and it's surrounded by our body temperature, which is very hot, and compare it to a plastic water bottle sitting in your car for 24 hours or for 48 hours, many of us know and agree that you wouldn't drink from that water bottle anymore because the chemicals seep into that water because of the temperature that it has been incubating in.
Yes.
And if somebody would have like slowed me down to think about that, and I think I'm a pretty logical and critically thinking person. Anybody who follows me for the past few years knows I'm all about that. And I don't know why, but that thought never crossed my mind.
Same. I don't know why I didn't think that either. And why I was told too that the allergen textured ones were safe and great because they could never fall apart in you. And then I'm like thinking about it. Well, no, the texture can crumble, and it did crumble inside of me. I was scraped so much that they almost, like when you eat, I don't eat meat, ribs anymore, but ribs have this like thin skin layer. Yes. Like they scrape you so much I couldn't fly after for a while because I was so scraped. Yeah, isn't that gross? But that's how scraped I was. I have so much scar tissue here. I have to see an RMT at least once a month, and she just works and works and works the whole area of where I was scraped because it was so much.
Wow. I need to introduce you to my scar girl.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like, and she can do it online as well. Obviously, it's amazing if you
Wow.
can have her in person,
Yeah.
but her technique and what she really teaches you how to maneuver the scar, how to work with the scar. She can help you online. And a lot of women don't realize this, that it's not just your scar tissue that can maybe be uncomfortable, that can be slightly painful, but your scars also carry and hold toxins as well, right? So when we're thinking about trying to flush and cleanse our body from the toxins that have built up over all of the years, the scar tissue can actually hold that. But more so, scars have a way of, think about it as like tentacles, okay?
Yeah.
That they are looking to find something permanent and hard in the body. And so for us as women who have explanted, that those scars on the breast tissue is soft. And so the scar is looking for something that is not going to change and is hard. And so that is typically bone. And below our boobs, our breasts, is our ribs. And that latching on where they, kind of put their teeth into the bone can cause all type of digestion issues, breathing issues, mobility issues. And again, because there's not a lot of education and awareness on that, we're then looking at for other reasons as to why maybe we're having these issues.
So true. I had all those issues, and I'm still dealing with a lot of them, like from the ribs and the digestion, and which I never had anything like that before. So 100%. And that's why I say like the journey continues, because like that work is all the time, constant.
It is all the time.
To feel good.
I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to hook you up with her. She's amazing. And, we've talked about this before as well, but we're actually going to be hosting a retreat together in Costa Rica. And part of our everyday movement and also education for the women is yoga, but also to be moving in a way that's going to actually flush your body and help release toxins, but as well also get the scar to move, starting to manipulate that scar, and then going through these workshops so women can go home and they are now empowered to keep doing that work, even though they're not at the retreat, right? Or they're not meeting with Kendra, is her name.
Yeah.
On a one-to-one basis all the time, but you can still do online. But like, we want to empower women on how they can actually like realign and restore their body. And
I think that is such an incredible gift, honestly, because yoga has been one of the game changers for me in this journey. And I went on a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, and I shared actually on my social media, I had actually a release during that trip, like more toxicity coming out of me. I had no idea what at first it was happening, but I had this rash all down here at the end of the trip. And I'm like, did I get a bite? And I'm like, oh no, it's still toxins coming out.
Yeah. And that's over 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And like that alone is, women, like, listen to what Vanessa is saying. This is not a remove my implants, sew me up.
Yeah.
Like, let me, like, I don't even want to use the word heal, but like sew me up and like keep moving through life.
It's not a one and done. It is not a one and done.
It's a perfect way of saying it. It is not a one and done. There's the physical, emotional, and also mental healing that is a process and can be years, for a lot of us, and different layers as well. Like, unbelievable that you just had this release.
I know. I was like, thank you, because that was sitting in me, like in my body every day. And I'm like so grateful that the experience I just had released that. And I still every day I'm working to release these toxins and live a low toxic lifestyle like you. Like, I'm really trying to educate myself further for myself, for my kids. And like, I mean, it is this, when you start learning and opening the doors, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a process.
I know. It is a process. And it can be overwhelming. And, I encourage people to start with one thing.
Yeah.
Right. Start with one thing, introduce it into your life. And little by little, you can literally convert your entire kitchen, your entire bathroom, your fridge, It is so worth it. You know, you feel better.
Yeah.
And, you know, people, it's so funny. I was reading a post the other day about how people will complain that living healthy is too expensive. Yet, you know, they'll go and drop that same amount of money to go out for dinner with friends, you know, or that they don't have time to self-care, yet they don't think at all about the hours that they waste scrolling on Instagram or watching a new Netflix series.
Totally.
Right. And it's like,
everybody has the same amount of time in the day. Everybody.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's about where, like, really what your priority is. And if you prioritize yourself and your own health, then maybe you won't go out for that dinner because you need to take that money and invest it into your health, which in the long run has a way better ROI, a return on your investment for the longevity of your life.
Totally.
You know?
And actually, one thing I want to mention too is like, when you're confronted with like your health to a point where like you can't function properly in the day or take care of your kids, like when I got those implants removed and the first time I looked at my breasts and they were not at all what I had wanted them to be before, but I remember the first time I looked at my breasts after having the explant, and I was like, I looked at them like it was like a child. I was like, I am so sorry, you guys. Like, I will never fuck with you again. And like, I am so grateful that you're here still and you're like existing. Like, you have a new found love and respect for your body after going through that. Like, when you feel so sick, like I was just so grateful to have that shit out of me and to like have my two little mom boobs sitting there. I love them so much now. Like, I know that they're not, you know, the greatest things maybe for people to look at, but my husband couldn't love me anymore. I don't care. I'm healthy. I'm on my journey. You know, like you really do. The self-love piece evolves so much. And that's a whole other part of it.
It is. And, you know, your reaction, of course, is not going to be everybody's reaction,
100%.
you know, and I think the most important takeaway for me that I would encourage women, if they don't have that, and I'll be honest, that was not for me. Like when I first saw myself, like I looked down and I just remember bawling my eyes out, like bawling my eyes out. And yet in that same moment, I was able to look at my body and thank her for fighting for me. Thank her for not giving up on me and for being resilient after all of these years.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to continue to move forward. And I don't regret taking them out, obviously. And I would do it again. For me, it wasn't as, I don't want to say the word easy, because even for you with your journey, I know it's not been easy. But that's for me how I move through that, is that maybe if you aren't, you know, and I just say this for other women listening, you know, it's hard for you to look at yourself right now in the mirror, it's to still honor your body and say thank you, because she has been fighting for you for a very long time.
100%. And I don't mean to downgrade that part, because I know it is really hard for, you know, a lot of women after, and like, I didn't get a lift after. That was something that wasn't an option for me.
Yes.
The surgeon who I went to, and often they won't do a lift right after, if that's something you feel like you need. Some do. I didn't get one. And I remember him being like, you can do that after. And I'm like, dude, I am never coming here again. I'm never, no one's touching here again except me and my husband ever again. Like, if I'm done. So I kind of had to accept that, like, I was never going back. I was never doing it. And so I think the day I saw them was also like, I thought I was going to die at the end. Like, I felt so bad that I was like, I am here. So I'm good. I don't care how I look anymore. Like, I just, you know.
I love that. No, seriously. And I think that's so encouraging for so many women to hear, you know, because many women might have that reaction, you know, and this is the power of sharing our stories.
Totally.
You know, because everybody has a different experience, and some of the challenges, which I'd love to get into that part of it with you as well, but some of the challenges are different, you know, like what was easier for you was my challenge, and some of my challenges for me, you don't have the same. And I think this is the power of our stories and being able to encourage and uplift one another in that, so that we can inspire and maybe help other women to feel courageous to be able to to do the same, you know?
Yeah, totally. And like, so my challenges now would be more like, I have a lot of pain still in my left breast, and it's probably scar tissue, but it makes me nervous, and I have to go for a mammogram and ultrasounds at least once a year. Like I actually have one next week. So I have to really watch because they found crumbling, and because I think there is a history in my family, but because the implants that I specifically had were recalled due to this cancer, I have to stay on top of my breast health, like big time.
Of course. And can I ask about your support in this journey? Where did you find you're smiling?
The thing is, and God love the people who love you, but like everyone thinks it's like a cosmetic thing, right? Like that it's just looked at so cosmetic. And I know it is considered a cosmetic surgery, but it's just so much more than all that. You and I both know that. And you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, you got them out now. Yeah, you're good. Like, you know, they just don't understand the whole process of it all, mental, physical. So for me, my support is meeting women like you. It really is. It's been this communities that I've met online. My husband's ex-girlfriend who put herself out for me. I was like, I couldn't be more appreciative of that woman. She was so kind and in getting in touch with me. I wouldn't even have known for months probably had she not reached out to me. And thankfully my husband's been really great. I feel really fortunate in that area. Like he's been really awesome with it. But I know that I've been 100% judged by other people in my family. And, you know, they don't like, even after the surgery, it was like getting I don't know, something removed, like something little, like not a big deal, even though it was like huge to me, and to my health. So you're going to get supported by some. You'll be surprised, I think, about the people who do support you and where you find those people. And you'll be hurt probably about the people who don't support you. But at the end of the day, I think it was a real like look inward journey as well. And I found so much more personal strength than I knew I had going through all this. And like, I really deepened my self-love and my strength and my courage through it. So I definitely grew from it.
Yes. So can I ask you, when you think of not necessarily like what you learned about BII, breast implant illness, but you think about the lesson that you learned from explanting, was there anything that you took away that was a lesson for you that if you still had, let's say, implants now, even maybe, that you would be doing differently?
I would say, I mean, I've always been health conscious of like, I don't fuck around with my health. Like, honestly, like I am getting more, I'm learning more, I'm reading more, I'm taking it a whole lot more seriously I have 3 kids, about what they're being exposed to. It's changed my awareness on the medical industry, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Big time, and on who we trust and who we listen to and who we're advised by. And I feel that it's really important to do your own research on everything now. Like,
Amen.
you know, it's so important to really do your own research. And I think I trusted a lot before. I was very trusting of the establishment. I was very trusting. I was one of those people who like wanted to follow the rules and you know, be the kind of person who's like supporting the greater good. And now I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to do all the research now. And I've learned that the past couple of years too. Like, I think a lot of people that I'm like, no. I am not going to do what people tell me they think is the best thing. I'm going to do my own research, and I'm going to trust my gut and my intuition. Cause
I couldn't agree more. I actually I posted this morning to my stories. Benjamin Franklin says something to the extent of that our number one duty as a citizen is to question all the authorities. That's like our number one duty.
Yeah. And I didn't do that before. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't.
Sure.
And like now I do. And every single day that passes by, I'm more and more and more. Yeah. And it's an eye-opening journey, right? Like
it is. And there's, you know, and this is part of even just the premise of the Freedom CEO podcast that when we do not outsource our trust, meaning we do the research, we cross-reference, we're able to make decisions that are truly our own. Like we got to own our decisions. And by doing so, we can dictate our life. And there's a lot of freedom in that, whether they're the right or the wrong decisions. But it's the right decision and kudos there. Otherwise, you can choose to learn the lesson in it, but you're still in control, right? Like you're still in the driver's seat. Exactly. And there's freedom in that even if you made the wrong decision, you have nobody else to fault. You have nobody else to blame because it was yours, versus being like, I was coerced, I was duped, I was this, I was that, where then you feel like all of a sudden you're confined or maybe a prisoner to really not knowing what's going on around you, right? And not being able to make these decisions. And so I love hearing what you say about that, because that's just, the reason why this podcast exists, around taking ownership of our decisions and becoming that CEO of your life, where you are in control, you are the driver, you are the captain, and you're making the best decisions for yourself and not outsourcing your trust to allow other people to dictate how life is going to be for you, what your health is going to be like.
I think that is so massive and like such a huge conversation too, especially for women who are often, when my generation was like, be a good girl, do what you're told. Like, like that was the environment I was raised in,
Sure.
And it's like, you get to a certain point in your life and you're like, that is bullshit.
Totally. Well, I know one of your personal mandates is to be living your very best life, and you love to do that for yourself, but also to inspire other women to do the same.
Yes.
When you think of what living your best life means, what is that for you?
Waking up every morning, excited for the day, being passionate about what you do, being connected in a community of people who are like-minded and also inspired, and inspiring other women to live the same way. Like making the choice, like you said, controlling your day every day, and realizing that you are in the driver's seat of your life and that you can literally do anything you want to do with your life. You just got to do it.
Totally. 100%. I love that. Well, I have to ask you one last question, and I feel like you and we could chat for a long time and go off on some fabulous topics, which, we might as well just have you back on the show and we can go down those different avenues. You're on the Freedom CEO podcast. So I need to ask you, when you think of being the CEO of your life, how has taking ownership over your decision to explant brought you freedom?
Honestly, it kind of opened up and unleashed the woman inside of me who was always there, who was always really strong and wanting to make her own decisions. And really, I make my own rules. Like I answer to myself, not to anybody else anymore. Like I'm living my own, doing my own path, living my own life, and I answer to myself. And it really, explanting truly empowered me. I was like, yeah, living to my own rules.
I love it. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your story and your time. I know it's going to inspire and encourage so many other women. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. You're amazing. And I love this podcast.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.